Hi, everybody. I decided after our conversation on Tuesday, I would put together a little bit of a teaser video just to show you kind of what we're thinking about in terms of visualization. And I also thought I'd take the chance for those of you who have been subscribers, who are subscribers to my YouTube channel, just to let you know who I am and what's going to happen in the next few weeks. My name's Tim Johnson, and I've just retired as a professor in the landscape architecture department for the last 36 years. Been teaching technology and visualization from the days of markers and colored pencils on up through 3D modeling and virtual reality. So I am retired, but I'm still involved with learning and still involved with teaching. Still really have an interest in virtual reality for design and visualization. I've been working with a lot of headsets, Gravity Sketch in VR, really hoping to put some more tutorials out on that in the near future. But for right now, since most of you, if you're design students, you're stuck at home and waiting out the coronavirus, I thought this might be useful for you. So if you like this, tell your friends, let them know what's going on. I will be putting some tutorials out, and I'll mention that in a little bit later. But basically, this came from a conversation about, well, what can the students use at home? And for those of you in 414 working in Hazelwood near Pittsburgh, this is just to give you an example of what we were talking about in terms of really using 3D modeling and VR software as a way to just generate your ideas, working with little vignettes. You don't have to do a complete model. So we don't, in 2020, I saw another video somebody put out talking about software you should learn in 2020 if you're a design student. Came down to the end list and talked about how important Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator are, and I'm just one to say that I just think that's the wrong way to go. I think it's time for a new paradigm. All that involves post-production, a lot of manual labor. It still is using an analog paradigm to complete the work, and I hope I can show you in this short video what the potential is to actually design in 3D. It's quicker, it's better, it's more efficient. You can spend more time in design. You can generate all the images you want, from plans to sections to perspectives, and you don't have to do any post-production. This is, as Epic Games has on their website, the future is real time. I'm going to talk about some software called Twinmotion in a bit, which is out there available for free for all students. So it's a great opportunity to download that, take advantage of it, and let's get started then. So again, this conversation basically came out of talking about how we could work on different sites that we're working on in this studio. And the issue came up, well, can we use freehand sketches? Should we use 3D modeling? Can we work, in AutoCAD and Plan? And that's all great. And I've been around long enough that I'm back in the days when sketching was the only way to do things. So after the conversation, those of you who are in the Pittsburgh studio, you'll see this later. I was thinking about one of the groups is working with these stairways that are working their way down the hill. So I just put together a little kind of quick concept sketch. And if you can crank one of these out in 15 or 20 minutes, that's great. Use them. And you can continue to refine that, but that'll take you another half hour to 45 minutes or an hour. And then that's one single view of understanding what your design is about. So I'm still totally with freehand sketching as a way to overcome that inertia of just trying to generate ideas, but I think you can do the same thing with 3D modeling, and it doesn't hold you back in any way. So what I want to show you is how I took that idea, or decided, well, let's see if I can work that idea out, and a second idea. So these circles represent two kind of site areas within this bigger context. And so what I did in SketchUp is, without doing hardly any modeling, so as I zoom in on this area, basically do minimal geometry, use 3D warehouse, find components. These are all built components that I just borrowed. The idea was to have a series of steps and switchbacks and a little landing, a place where you could look down to the view, see the river. And so anyway, I just mocked it up, super simple. This site was, the idea was creating a community garden type site. So again, I modeled a little bit of geometry over here to create an entry in a paved area, and then these two raised beds for plantings. This was a component from 3D Warehouse. These are components. This trellis structure is a component, and then I simply draped a draped a form onto here so that once I bring this into Twinmotion, I can apply different textures to it. I could have done the same thing over here. As you'll see later, I painted some grass in here. And if that was a separate surface and material, I can really quickly apply different textures to that in Twinmotion. So this is, these are the different scenes just to show you how simple and basic the model was in SketchUp. I didn't do anything more than that, just enough to get it going. And then I took that and loaded that into Twinmotion. And so this is Twinmotion. It's created by Epic Games, the creators of Fortnite. They bought it back from a French company called Advent and are continuing to develop it, and the newer version just came out within the last couple weeks. As I said, for students, you can go to Epic's website, just do a search for Twinmotion 2020, and you can sign up as a student and download this for free. It's full featured, doesn't expire, it's a perpetual license, so you can use it. So it's really easy. You can take a native SketchUp model and load it in. You can also link a SketchUp model and Twinmotion. You can also link a Rhino model in Twinmotion. So again, I don't care if you're, I'm kind of used to using SketchUp. I've used and taught Rhino, but again, we're not modeling a lot of complex geometry, and this is, again, focused on landscape architecture and site design. If you're doing more architecture, again, work in whatever software you want to create the 3D geometry. But then to be able to explore some of the other dimensions and really understand what it's going to look like in terms of spatial quality, in terms of scale, in terms of what kind of activities are going to happen in these spaces. Twinmotion just gives you a great environment to do that. So in this case, I brought it in. The site itself, I actually created in SketchUp using the Placemaker plugin, which is a great plugin for pulling down OpenStreetMap data. It comes in a little light. There's a way to adjust this, and actually you can see over in some of these areas I did adjust the brightness of it, but I left the rest of this light on purpose to focus on these two different site areas. But however you generate the base plan, so I did that ahead of time. Everything I'm going to show you in Twinmotion, actually what I did in SketchUp and Twinmotion, not creating the site, but creating these two design areas, and creating all the images that you just see down here, as well as exporting that in something called Presenter, which Twinmotion has as a new feature. That was probably between 4 and 5 hours. So one of our afternoon studios is about 4 hours long. So it's pretty much one day's work to do that, compared to if you think about how long it would take to generate this many images using Photoshop or Illustrator, doing something simple in SketchUp or Rhino, and then adding all the plants as a photo montage. This is way more efficient and gives you more time to focus on your design. So I choreographed some images here just to show you. Here's the overall images. There's a notes function that you can use now in Twinmotion 2020. So I just put a couple labels in there. And then just by clicking on these different views, you can see I had that little structure in here. I can zoom in. And so what I brought in was just the basic elements from SketchUp. I added some people in there, some notes about this, painted all these plants in here really quickly with Twinmotion's tools. It allows you to either paint multiple plants on with a paintbrush, or allows you to pick an area or a material and fill them with just a couple clicks. So it's a really super fast way to be able to add that. You can see that there's motion, animation, plants move in the wind. All those things are here. You can add sounds in there, and you'll hear some of those, I think, a little bit later if the computer audio is picking up. So this first vignette probably took me, I don't know, half an hour to an hour to create, both in SketchUp and bringing it in here. The second site area is a community garden. Took a little more time to do. It's a little more elaborate. And again, I haven't been working directly with the students on their design ideas, so I was taking a couple general concepts and trying to figure out the design ideas as well. So that's all part of that 4.5 hours that I spent putting this together, as well as I went out on 3D Warehouse and found all the different elements. So again, one of the nice things, because Twinmotion can import SketchUp files directly, everything that's on 3D Warehouse is fair game. So you can go out there and find structures and benches and different kinds of plants, and you just bring them right into Twinmotion and place them inside this environment. If you're using Rhino, I don't think it imports native Rhino files, but you can export them as OBJs and they come in just fine too. So again, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more on here. You can start to see the garden taking place. What was pretty simple. This is that play structure, and Twinmotion renders out. You can swap out materials that have more textures. You can see I painted on some grass down here, and these are really simple, basic SketchUp models, but they got the idea across. So here's getting down to eye level. Put a sign in here. We've got butterflies dropped in that are flying around. You can see things moving in the breeze. All this can be put together super fast, and just by spending more time thinking about the composition and the elements that are in there, you can really start to animate the space and think about the qualities of the space itself, and not spend your time just copying and pasting plants into Photoshop and trying to get the perspective right. This perspective is always right. And the nice thing about this is that these images allow me to jump from one scene to the next within Twinmotion. And again, in this teaser, I'm not going to do a tutorial and show you how to do this. I will be doing that and putting those together in the days and weeks ahead. But I just wanted you to know that once you create these images, you can export them into something that Twinmotion calls Presenter. Nice thing about this is if you're a design student stuck at home and the faculty you're working with aren't, up to speed with all the technology, you can still present your ideas, whether you're a landscape architecture student or an architecture student or a planner. You can take that, export that in a presenter format, which is an executable file that runs directly without any other software. So you can put this up on Dropbox. You can, get rid of my VR stuff here. And they can download it, and on their computer they can fire it up just like this, and once it's running they can approach this two different ways, and this is what's really pretty cool about it, including if you add some of the notes in there. It makes it easy for them to kind of see what your thoughts are. Again, it's great to produce wonderful images, but design is not just about flashy images, it's about the thought and the understanding behind it. So by including that kind of text information, that gives them a way to kind of work through one slide at a time, and you can kind of annotate those slides. But the nice thing is that once you actually are in that presenter mode, now if you have a VR headset, you can actually use VR to explore it, but you don't need that. If you just have it up and running on your computer, you can use the mouse to navigate by clicking from one slide to the other. But what it actually does is compile the entire 3D scene, so that once it's running, you can see the hints here in terms of how you can move around in it. But I can press this, and it will just go through so many seconds per slide and then jump to the other one. Or I can jump to a slide here and pause this, and once I pause it, if I get this out of the way, you can see I can look around up and down. I've got full 360. But you can see because of my vignette, there's not much out there. But the idea was just to show what's happening here. And then I can jump from one to the next. And if I want to get down in here, again, I can start exploring, zooming in, looking at things in more detail. So it really gives you a way to, if they want to look at a view that's different than the one you provided for them, you can just navigate right through the whole thing, and you can use the W and the S keys just like a first-person video game to kind of navigate through that as well. And you can set that here so you can come up and say, okay, I want to have my feet on the ground, pedestrian mode. Oh, that's a little interesting. Let's switch back to this view and have animated characters. I don't think the sounds are playing in here, but maybe I don't know if I have a sound until I move over to, let's see if this one. No, they're not coming up on screen, but I added sounds like 4 sounds of birds and chirping in the background so that you can actually get a real nice dimension to understanding what the space looks like and feels like. So again, it gives you a way to really explore the idea without, this is still the placemaker image map down here. I just, again, created the composition and filled in the plants where I needed it to. so I could see it. Didn't quite get the playset down on the ground here, but again, makes it really quick and easy way to go through and set up these images. So, and again, so if you put this up on box and somebody can look at it, anybody can explore your design ideas, see it and explore it and look around in it in free form mode, or they can just click on the slides and go through it from one to the next. So hopefully this gives you a little idea what the potential of Twinmotion is, and the potential of using it with SketchUp or Rhino to just do these basic vignettes. You don't have to create the entire model in detail. We're just trying to generate images that help express design concepts in their early stages, and that's what we're working through right now in our studio, and hopefully being able to deliver some of this to the stakeholders and citizens. This is a community-based design studio, so we want them to be able to see it and understand what the ideas are, not just professional designers, and this gives you a really great way to do that. And since Twinmotion is free for students, and SketchUp, you can get a free version of SketchUp. It really doesn't take that much. It does. Twinmotion is like Lumion, if you're familiar with that, but tends to run on computers that don't have quite as much power. I've run this on a 3-year-old Microsoft Surface Book Pro. It does have an NVIDIA graphics card, but it only had like 4 gigs of RAM, and and like I said, it's three years old, but it still works pretty well on it. So you may have to limit some of the things you can do, but if you've got a reasonably powerful laptop with a good graphics card in it, this should work great for you. So if you're interested in that, like I said, stay tuned to my YouTube channel. I'm going to be posting tutorials about this. Twinmotion has some of their own help files, and I can provide some links later on. I don't think they have a full course series on the newest version 2020, but they do have one for 2019. It's mostly the same, but there are a bunch of new features here that I can go over with you as well. So take advantage of the free software, use your time efficiently, focus on design, and we'll get through this together. Thank you.